going on, guys? The Inside New York Sports Podcast here. And Giants fans, we got our offensive coordinator, and it is Matt Nagy, the former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of Giants fans are very, very up in the air about the move. To me, it kind of came as a shock. I think we didn't really hear Matt Nagy's name much in terms of the offensive coordinator job. We heard it more if he might be the next head coach for the New York Giants back probably a few months ago, honestly, when Jay Glazer laid out all of the potential head coaching options. You know, you heard Matt Nagy's name. You heard Lou Arminero's name, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. You heard Mike McCarthy, right? You heard all different names. But Matt Nagy is the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. And I know people are immediately going to ask me, Vin, why and what is your opinion on the move? And listen, man, is Matt Nagy the best out there? Maybe not. But the thing that I view this as is the offense wasn't the issue last year with the New York Giants. The issue last year was being able to get off the field on defense and preventing these blown leads that our offense provided the defense. The offense was not the issue last year. If it was Brian Dable calling the plays or it was Mike Kafka, both worked out under Jackson Dart, and I expect Matt Nagy to be able to work well with Jackson Dart. The defensive role with Denard Wilson is what I look forward to more necessarily than Matt Nagy. We needed to land a good defensive coordinator, or at least one that has good potential. And Denard Wilson, with nothing really on Tennessee, was able to build a good enough defense. And, you know, with Matt Nagy, he came from a good coaching tree, right? Andy Reid, I know he wasn't calling the plays, Matt Nagy-wise. Matt Nagy was not calling the plays for the last few seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he has shown, actually back in 2017, when he was calling plays, his team was averaging 20 and a half points per game. I know that's 2017, that's almost 10 years ago now. Now that we're in the big 2026, but, getting back to the defense, right? The defense has talent, right? Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. If they re-sign Cordell Flott, right? Andrew Phillips, Javon Holland. So they needed to get a good defensive coordinator, and I'm not saying not necessarily focus on the offensive coordinator as much, but they needed to land a very solid defensive coordinator. And the biggest thing that I see with this is that Matt Nagy doesn't have to be perfect. Jackson Dart, Scadaboo, Neighbors, if they re-sign Wandale, those guys can make plays. And the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is Matt Nagy loves to run a bunch of RPOs, right? And I feel like with a guy that can run the football as well as Jackson Dart can. Jackson Dart was top 3 in rushing this past season, I think, in rushing rate. There's some stat, but he's one of the best quarterbacks when it comes to running the football. I think we can all agree with that, right? Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Jackson Dart, a bunch of guys that can run the football very well, and Jackson Dart is one of them. So if you do a bunch of, RPO concepts, it makes defenses really on their heels, whether they're going to have to defend the run with Cam Scadaboo or Tyron Tracy, or they got to worry about Jackson Dart. So, I think the offense is going to be very creative. Obviously, John Harbaugh is going to have a say in the offense, too. It's not just going to be Matt Nagy, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a joint effort, which is why I know a lot of Giants fans, including myself, wanted Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury wanted his own power. And it makes sense. Cliff Kingsbury is an established offensive coordinator, had some, was a head coach before with the Arizona Cardinals. But Cliff Kingsbury wanted his own power, and with John Harbaugh basically being the CEO of this operation now, since Joe Schoen had to take a smaller role, still going to be involved with all the talking and all that, but this is kind of John Harbaugh's team now. John Harbaugh wants to run things how John Harbaugh wants to run it, and Cliff Kingsbury doesn't want to do that. I also don't even think the Giants necessarily offered Cliff Kingsbury the job. I saw one source from, I think, Connor Hughes said that they did not officially offer him the offensive coordinator job. So we don't know if they ended up offering him it on the Zoom call that was last Saturday, I believe it was. Maybe they would have landed Cliff Kingsbury, but overall, I'm not mad with it, right? This season with a Patrick Mahomes that was not perfect, right? The Kansas City Chiefs were not the Kansas City Chiefs we've seen for the last 5 or so years, right? Mahomes still ranked 6th in passing efficiency, right? I think the big thing that makes this offense more creative too is, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs had to rely on the pass significantly more and rely on your big names like Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, all of those names. Their running back room, it felt like an open tryout. Nobody really was able to secure the backfield. Whether it's Isaiah Pacheco, Bashad Smith, I think his name is, a bunch of different guys, Kareem Hunt, right? So a bunch of different names out there. Now you get a running back room that is, I would say, established. You have a guy like Tyron Tracy who can, put up 1,000 yards in total yards and rushing and receiving. Cam Scatterboo is a beast. He's going to run through somebody. He's going to be able to be a physical running back on third downs and in the passing game as well. So there is still a lot of potential with this team. That's why I'm not really worried about the offense. If I'm being totally honest, this offense I fully expect to be a top 15 unit. And I'm setting the bar at top 15. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 5 offense. I'm not. I'm setting the bar at top 15, not because of Matt Nagy. Just I feel like that's a fair judgment. I don't want to be, not realistic and say, with this Matt Nagy hiring, they got to be a top 5 unit immediately because of the guys coming back. In terms of the draft, I want to make a whole separate video. So if anybody's wondering who I want to see draft and who I want to be the next New York Giant at pick 5, that is going to be a complete separate video. Probably going to be the next video of probably my five targets that I want to see the Giants draft, or at least in order who I want to see be a New York Giant in order. So for anybody asking about the draft, don't you worry. We will have draft stuff coming out eventually. But yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, like I said, I'm excited for the team. I'm excited for the future of this team. John Harbaugh is our head coach. Matt Nagy is our offensive coordinator. Denard Wilson, defensive coordinator. They still need to get an offensive line coach. I think they still need to get a quarterback coach, as well. So still some holes to be filled, but they also hired the Michigan's offensive line coach as assistant offensive line coach, which I am very high on him as well. I think he has done great in Michigan. They're always a top 20 unit in the nation. So I think the Giants are making some good moves. I'm glad, it's kind of moving fast with some of these moves. We're not waiting till the last minute to make a move and just hire whoever's out there. I feel like we're processing things more and being more smart about it. I mean, also getting back to Matt Nagy before I wrap it up, they've worked before. They've worked together before. This is not a kind of an unknown. John Harbaugh and Matt Nagy have worked before. So it's not like it's never happened. It's not like these guys are brand new and they got to, figure out a relationship. No, these guys have worked well together. Andy Reid, of course, probably preached and probably called the New York Giants last night or maybe even over the weekend that, Matt Nagy is a solid piece. I understand the frustration. He wasn't the guy maybe Giants fans wanted, but let's give Matt Nagy a chance before we can destroy him in week 1 if the play calling is terrible. But that is going to do it for this video, of course. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. On the road to 400 subscribers. Let's get there soon, man. I want to get there as soon as possible. Don't forget, we post YouTube shorts. And don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Matt Nagy is your offensive coordinator for the Giants. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.